Yeah, live. Quite the option typing. She has. Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our workshop on developing community research. I'm Lisa Howard. I'm the coordinator of the Food Sequel project in Plymouth. I'm joined by Eve, Joanna, and Laura, community researchers on the Food Sequel project in Plymouth. We're going to talk to you today about our learning about developing community research in Whitley. This is not all the team. We're led in Plymouth by Dr. Claire Pettinger of the University of Plymouth. There are other academic staff on the team and local community partners such as Food Plymouth. So I will share my screen and we'll get started with the presentation. Okay. Right, so thank you very much to the organisers for inviting us today. We're really delighted to be here, and we've had a really interesting time listening to the other speakers and presenters that we've heard today. So as I've mentioned, the Food Sequel project in Plymouth is a partnership between the University of Plymouth. It's funded by the UKRI Transforming UK Food Systems, and Food Plymouth is a local partner. So today I'll hand you over to Eve and Joanna and Laura in a second. We're going to quickly outline the session that we've got planned for you today. We have a quick icebreaker where we're going to find out about a little bit about you and your interest in community researcher. Joanna's going to talk about the Food Sequel project and the Food Sequel project in Plymouth. Laura will talk about the community food researcher model, and Joanna will talk about the community food researcher journey, and then three aspects of our work, community researchers and stakeholders, will be dealt with individually. At the very end, we'll have about 5 minutes to take some questions. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat as you go. And yes, I'll hand you over to Joanna.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Hello, my name is Joanna. I'm a community food researcher based in Plymouth. And yes, as a first slide, we've got a little icebreaker for everyone. So if you could just spend a moment and think about what does community research mean to you. If you've got any ideas, you can type it in the chat box. We will read all the messages from you. If nothing comes to your head at the moment, you can do it during the session. That's absolutely fine. We'll all have a look at that later on. Okay. So Food is Equal, Plymouth is a co-production. First of all, maybe let me tell you what Food Equal stands for. So Food Equal stands for Food Systems Equalities, and it's a national project. Plymouth is one of the 4 hubs in the country, and yes, we do all our actions and research in Plymouth. So there are 3 main aims of the project, and first is improving access to food that is healthy, affordable, sustainable for people in Plymouth. The second aim is putting the community at the heart of the project so that local people can lead change. And the third aim is to supporting connections between communities and the organizations that supply their food. Community food research, research model, resources and connections. So the project is a partnership between Food Plymouth and University of Plymouth. We are based in Whitley. At Four Greens, which is our local partner, and it's also a wellbeing hub. You can see there is a picture of our whole team. So the team, we've got some uni staff, we've got university students, we've got community food researchers, and also I can see we've got a picture of Ian. Ian represents Food Plymouth. We try to maintain the connections and like have monthly training sessions and regular meetings. We also have we also stay in touch. We have got like WhatsApp group where we communicate all the updates and whatever is happening. That's the first place where we share all the messages. I think that if you see anything that may seem unclear or anything, just please type it in the chat box and we will answer all the questions. Oh, this one is that's the picture of our journey. So you can see the road in the middle, and yes, that represents our journey. So we started in 2021. And the orange spots, they represent input. So all the team meetings and trainings and breakfast, regular breakfast meetings that we have. So all the meetings, formal and informal. So that's all the orange spots. And when you look at the green spots, they represent output. So research activities and gathering data. Let me just very briefly tell you about the recruitment, how it all started in 2021. So the recruitment was very informal. There was no interviews like what are usually associated with recruitment. So it was, I remember there was a flyer that simply invited people to come and have a conversation. The approach was just let's see who comes and who is interested in food and having a conversation about food in general. So we were all new to that. We were not really sure what are the expectations of the community food researcher. So it was we call it like a learning journey for ourselves as well. So we are all learning together, and as I said, it was all new. But I think we've done really, really well, and the team we've got at the moment, the group is very diverse. There is a different interest in the group, so everybody has got something different to offer. The project team, the people from university, they try to support everybody who develop their skills, so people can get involved in the way that is in line with their experience. And I think we all bring different things into the project, which I think is extremely valuable and makes it very, very special. Yeah, so I think that's it. And then the next slide will tell us a little bit about the 3 key aspects of our work. The first is community, and so I'll hand over to Laura.
Hi, so I'm Lauren, like Joanna, I'm a food researcher. So as Joanna mentioned, Foods Equal Plymouth aims to put the local community at the heart of the project. It gives the idea that Whitley community can have a voice about what they choose to do, what they want to happen. So for example, we have breakfast meetings every month, which includes speakers sometimes. So a couple of months ago, we had Ernest apiaries in to talk about honeybees. We've had apple press come in so we could make our own apple juice. Big Local has a market on a monthly basis where the Fresh Street part of our team sells their fruit and veg. It's also a good opportunity for the Foods Equal team to share groups that are coming up, activities that we're running. It's also an opportunity for us to advertise for the breakfast meetings. Joanna here has given us the opportunity to attend foraging walks where we collected our own produce and made a soup out of it. But in the sideline, all the opportunities, the activities that we do build a rapport with the community that we're trying to help. So at the beginning of our time together, as we started developing as a team, Plymouth university gave us a Explorer Award fund, and in that we developed a community research in Whitley where we designed a cream tea. And in that cream tea, we gave people the opportunity to talk about what they wanted in their food and how they wanted to make change. For example, we had interactive tablecloths on our tables where people could answer questions. For example, and if anybody wants to contribute to answering these questions too, that's up to you. But we have questions like describing your perfect Sunday lunch, or if you prefer red or brown sauce. So on this slide, it shows some of the interactions that we had during the session. So we had illustrators from the university come in, and instead of writing down everything, people said they used illustrations in which shows a picture of everything that was going on during that day. And as I mentioned before, we had interactive tablecloths on our tables, where people wrote recipes, which was another way of us gathering information. It also helped make sure that our participants felt valued, and it made them feel more relaxed, because we were helping them to communicate in a way that made them comfortable. For example, we have a member of our team that finds it hard to read. So we figured that in another way of interacting is through drawing, through artwork. And when we finished the event, we found out so much information, and we managed to use the experiences to sort of like help us plan our further research. So we had workshops during the time that we've been together, and this event helped us learn how to put them together, how to work as a team. So after the cream tea event, we put together the Whitley Community Cookbook. My colleague will put a link on the chat to give you an opportunity to read through the cookbook yourselves. These recipes came from people that came to the event. For example, one of the ladies that came, she brought in her wartime cookbooks, and these were based on rations, so it was very limited to what she could use. We also used some of the recipes ourselves, for example, the cider cake, which is in there. But it gave us a chance to give back to the community, and what they gave to us, we gave back. So this is where the cookbook came in. Plus, it gave us the chance to be more visible to them. So the Foods Equal project was able to sort of branch out using the cookbook. And I will pass you on to Eve, who's taking the next part of our workshop.
Thank you, Laura. Yes, hi, I'm Eve, and I'm going to talk next about our research. So it was from the end of 2021 that community food researchers got involved with the project, and we're quite a diverse group, and each of us brings a unique set of skills, and everyone has developed and learned new research skills through training with the group. We co-designed community research workshops with the Foods Equal staff team. Our product innovations that came out of the workshops were, the people said they were interested in fish and in vegetables. We have learned to talk to different audiences, and next one, sorry, you see. So research skills training. If you consider that between the community researchers, there was very little prior knowledge of research. So we were kind of starting, as a previous slide suggested, from zero. And from the perspective of a community researcher, some aspects of our training are quite generic. If you look at the list, there's taking consent, active listening, data safeguarding, confidentiality, but some was bespoke to this project. And then within that, some training was bespoke to our workshops and the data collection and analysis. The different audiences that we speak to might be stakeholders, university presentations to Food Plymouth, and those with interest in food in Plymouth, and we're to other parts of the larger project being based at Reading. So putting learning into action, the brief was to carry out a series of 8 co-designed local research workshops. The workshops were co-designed with the staff members of our team and all the CFRs, community food researchers. The benefit of being such a great team is that it's a levelish playing field when considering the practicalities of planning an event. Everybody brings something different to the table. So pre-event, we looked at what do we want to know? What do local people think? What do they want? Do they want change? How do we achieve this? When we planned an event, we featured in some time for testing and rehearsing the activities amongst ourselves. And we put new learning and existing skills into action. It was quite an intense time of training, activity, revisiting training, revisiting activity. And we worked hard to pull off the workshops. Research methods, we have used a variety of methods, as we mentioned before, and recording of activities, data, CFR experience, that's been quite an important part of the journey, and training. So at the workshops, participants and CFRs were given opportunity to contribute in different ways, bringing out the best ways for them. So creative, engaging, fun, collaborative. We used audio and art, participants and illustrators from the uni, CFRs in conversation, in taking part in art things. Photo Now came and took photos and did interviews and made video. And all these methods together allowed all to engage, contribute and to feel valued, which is a really important part, we think, of what we do. Participatory data analysis. So following the workshops, the data was transcribed and the whole team worked together. If you look at the picture there, there's Claire, who's heading up the Plymouth part of the project, with some CFRs, everybody working together. And the one benefit of this is that it brings different perspectives and they come into play and give a rounded result. Some quotes from community food researchers on the screen. And the community food researchers gain all through the process. We've all learned a great deal. We've all input to the project, to the knowledge, within knowledge, relationships, capacity building. And it gives, being a community food researcher, gives us opportunities that we might not otherwise have had, like sitting in on today's conference. So thank you for this opportunity. And stakeholders, our stakeholders might be other food sequel projects, Plymouth food providers, other local organisations, the local people, Food Plymouth, peers in Plymouth and in Reading and Tower Hamlets and Brighton and Hove, which are all hubs for the food sequel project. There's public health, there's the voluntary sector. And in November 2022, we put on our first kind of public event where we showcased work from across the project. It gave a flavour of what was learned about fish and vegetables and the data given by the local people and how it was learned. And we had examples of hands-on activities for people to try, activities that we had done in our workshops. So one of the activities that you may see on one of the slides, this was the showcase of work across the schools. And then if you see on the top left picture there, in the blue box was the fish box. Just an example of what activities we've done. And the box had a lid on it, and inside there were fish products, sorry. And the idea is that you put your hand in and fetch something out. And someone stands with a box, you fish something out. And they say, put your hand in around in here. You know that you're going to get a response. It'll make people smile, or they might pull a face. You don't know what you're going to get. And actually, it's a level playing field, isn't it? Mm. It doesn't matter what official or professional title that person or professional stakeholder brings with them. It's still going to make them smile and engage. And they're going to remember that. And maybe another time, in another situation, they might say, I went to that thing. What did we do? I remember now. And they'll remember that for a long time. So part of this activity was about fish. Part of it was about people remembering that they had engaged with us on that day. So some reflections that community food researchers have benefited from a better understanding of industry and academia around the food industry. That's been incredibly valuable. And being from or connected with the Whitley community, we are able to feed that back to the community, both informally and through food sequel activities. And how we can develop our approaches collaboratively. If you look at the list on the screen, the key factors of the sample there are time and relationship across the team. As community food researchers, we are treated as valuable colleagues with respect and dignity. It is a really great team.
Okay, so thank you very much. We have plenty of time now for some questions. I might read out some of the things that people have said about what community research means to them. So we have lots of things, could be developing ideas for just transition, getting help from local students, designing new space, dropping space together ideas. Somebody else has said engagement throughout and hearing the priorities that communities want. Let me see what others. Listening and doing, lots of other lived experience and much more. Yeah, listening and doing was a big key one. Are there any further questions from people in the audience that for the community researchers about what you've seen? Okay. Right, so we have a little bit of time. So I wonder if we could talk a little bit about, should we go back to some of the slides and maybe talk a little bit more about maybe how we develop and work collaboratively? Maybe would that be interesting? And if there were some questions in the, here's one from Paul Hardman. If you were developing a new community research project, what would be your top tips? Anybody?
I can answer some things, contribute something to that. Top tips for the team, if you're a staff team, for example, at the university, is be sure of what you want first, what do you want your community food research or your community researchers to do, and to prepare for their sort of arrival. So things like we have learned, everybody started with nothing really, and no knowledge, not really where are you going, what do you want. But now we have a WhatsApp group and we have our regular meetings in the diary. We know these meetings are monthly, those meetings are bi-monthly, these meetings are every week. Have some kind of structure for your community researchers to start with, because when you don't know where you're going and don't understand really what it's all about, initially some structure would be helpful.
Yeah. And I think food, I mean, Food SQL, we're interested in the food system and equality and access around the food system. So that even in that is a big topic, actually. So we spent some time at the very beginning just talking to people. One of the first things we did was set up monthly drop-in breakfasts and just chat to local people who are interested in food, find out what the issues are. And we took a very open-ended approach to all of that. But I think you're absolutely having some structure around when you meet and how you're going to discuss things is really important too. And then the Food SQL project then did give us research priorities around developing product innovations as well around fish and vegetables. Any other tips for starting?
I think because you mentioned monthly breakfast mornings, so it leads to setting, like, try to build up your presence, like make sure the community food researchers somehow build a presence in the community, because from the experience, I know that building trust and connections within the community, it takes time, but it's so important. I think that's the biggest part of success, and having the people attending workshops, it is part of it. So it's really important to start building the presence, community presence, from the very beginning, really.
Yeah, I think it was about maybe, it was 6 months at least before we did any actual formal research. It's mostly talking. Yeah, that's really.
And can I add a little thing into that? Is that having some kind of branding, and whether that is have a breakfast once a month on the third Monday of the month, and whether it is that that your community researchers have some identification, or that if you're going to put out stuff maybe on Facebook or in a flyer, that you have a branding so that people will recognise that and say, that's those people who, and they'll know that it's you.
Yes, and being consistent with the same branding, so not changing it all the time. Just choose one at the beginning and stay with that.
So there's another question here around, I guess it's how we work as a team. Do you have ground rules about how to discuss things?
I think the best thing to do is just to make sure people know that whatever's discussed does sort of stay in the four walls that you're in. But I think open communication does sort of help make your team work just that little bit easier. So I do think sharing is a key thing to making a team work. But making sure that if things are discussed that are private, just to keep it in your team.
We've had different things. So we've had some formal training, and then some sessions which are more fun and creative and exploratory. And we've also done different. I think generally, while there is for the researchers, obviously confidentiality and data management, that is confidential. But I think there is within the team. We did have a learning agreement in the beginning, and we listed some things that community researchers' qualities and things they might want to think about, such as things like values and respect and all those sorts of things. That was done very, very, very early on. And I think because we have worked for a number of years together, I think there is a level of trust within the team. I guess that would be main ground rules. although obviously for more formal things there might be, obviously within the research activity and stuff there are,
And we're putting together some resources about what it is to be a community researcher, aren't we? And our journey that other people might find valuable if they're starting their own group. And then there's Hannah's booklet.
Yes, I can put that in the chat as well. So there is a number of resources on the website about, and one of the things that, so somebody has mentioned plans for next projects. So as Eva's mentioned, there are plans for us to connect with other peer researchers in Plymouth and share some of the things that we've experienced in Food Sequel and find out what other peer researchers are doing in the city. That's going to happen later in the year. And with regard to the project itself, the two main things that are happening are the Plymouth Fish Finger that has come out of the fish workshops, and the other thing is, do you want to say something about Fresh Street?
Yes, sure. So Fresh Street is a part of the project where a particular number of postcodes within the Whitley area were selected to receive vouchers, whereby they can come and order some bags, like a veg box scheme, but it's veg bags. And they can collect, they can order every other Tuesday, and then every other Thursday come and collect their bag of free fruit and vegetables, seasonal vegetables. We're looking at, does that make a difference? What impact might that have in the local area? Having access to good quality fresh fruit and vegetables on the doorstep. And then on the Thursday when they collect their bags, there's also, it's a drop-in, people can have tea, coffee, and we usually have a topic that we would be discussing or just sharing conversation about. And Joanna has visited us with her wormery as one of our topics. We were talking about composting, and we've talked about other kind of equipment in the kitchen and what do you do with certain vegetables. So anything that people might be interested in.
So I guess it's quite nice to see the tangible outcomes from the research workshops.
Absolutely.
So the Plymouth Fish Finger, which, Laura, do you want to say something about those plans for next steps?
So on the 13th of July, we are holding an event at the National Aquarium where we're making our fish finger a live product. It's going to be based in Plymouth schools, so it's going into the school food system in Whitley. Hopefully plans after that will mean it will go public. It will hopefully come out of school system.
So watch that space. There
So
will
watch
be more
the
information. So I think, as you know, you alluded to earlier, that it's really good to see those improvements in the food system and the tangible results of the workshops that people can actually.
I mean, we can't fix the food system altogether, but we can certainly find ways of helping it out.
Okay. There's another question here. Were there any conflicts or issues? Does that mean conflicts? Interesting question. I guess, is it about group dynamics or is it working in the community? How would you interpret that one?
That's a bit of a hard question. Bearing in mind that there's no sort of aim for it, if it's a team conflict or if it's a public one.
When it comes to the team, I think we got them very, very well.
Yeah,
and we support each other. There is the trust that Lisa mentioned because we've been working together for a few years now.
Maybe challenges. Maybe the challenges that there are some challenges.
I think sometimes recruitment might be a bit of a challenge.
To recruit people to the workshop.
Yeah, trying to get people interested is sometimes a little bit hard. And like the Fresh Street, not everybody's interested in it, so some people have turned it away. So there's always a conflict of interest, but as a team, I think we work perfectly well.
Yeah, I think we've had the luxury of time on this project to have time and space to learn things and try things, and have a mixture of activities as a team to keep us connected, as well as the learning and formal training.
And I also think that the fact that we've worked together long enough would give us the option, if that something was displeasing towards us, that we'd have confidence and the trust in each other to sort of mention it to each other.
Sort it out. Yeah.
We can sort it out rather than keep it.
I mean, there are times in project delivery which can be major pinch points for the team, if that can happen. And because you've got an academic team and a community team, people who work very differently and with different skills, there can be mismatches or misalignment there in terms of timescales and communication. It does, but yeah.
I think when we very first started, again, bearing in mind that as community food researchers, we had little or no experience of research. There was maybe a language barrier between the academics and the researchers, and somebody like Lisa kind of was the bridge between the two of us, translating one way and another. I feel we've overcome that now. So I would say the biggest challenge now is everybody getting their diaries out and finding a space so we can fit together.
We're very busy. Yeah, we're extremely busy. Other challenges. I'm just kind of thinking locally, Joanna, because I know that you're really kind of embedded in Whitley, and I know there's lots of provision, and you also work for Whitley Big Locals. I just Food Sequel is one of different projects in Whitley, so I just wonder if, but we work together on some things, but yeah.
I can't think about any challenges. I think it's very supportive that I'm so lucky to be able to work with the Big Local project and having this opportunity. So I can only see advantages. Like you've mentioned, sometimes time might be a little bit challenging because there is so much going on, especially this time of year. Because I also work my outdoorsy activities, so for me it's it's like timing. But I can't think about anything particular. Is there anything you had to?
I think probably one of the main things is that issue of recruitment and people recognizing Food Sequel, understanding what it's about and what if they were to be involved as a participant, what would that mean for them? And feeling that that time that we spend at community events, at the markets, it's so important. You can't do enough of that, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that is where you build relationships and trust, and that's why people come to the workshops. And we've had some time to do that. We're still doing it. We're always learning how to do something differently or better in terms of engagement with local people.
I think we were told as researchers at the beginning that it was a long-term project because it takes a time to build, as Joanna said, the trust and the face in the community. And I think we're just starting really to take off now, aren't we? It has taken a long time. But now, especially with the presence at the market, that's really helped.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so another question here. I really enjoy your creative research approaches. Do you have a particular favourite approach or one that has been particularly successful?
So during our workshops, especially the veg workshops, a lot of people found that drawing was quite an interactive way of communicating. So if I can see some of the one or two of the slides before.
Yeah, we'll go back. Sorry.
If you can notice on some of the slides, there's drawings which people took part in doing whilst we were doing the workshops. Because we also found that this was a good way of communicating as well, because a lot of people don't like communicating by verbal. So drawing was a great way of showing a way of communication.
I think sorry, that's jumping around on it's going to settle now in a second. So there's the image that we're looking at. So these are drawings that were done in the fish and vegetable research workshops, but they were also a big part of the data analysis, weren't they?
Yeah, we used them to sort of like determine what people were interested in. And we also used creative ideas for some of the workshops. If you've noticed in some of the pictures, there was pictures of the giant fish, and we used art to sort of help us with our workshops. In one of the slides, there was a giant jellyfish, which was created by one of our colleagues to help with the fish workshops.
We can go back to that.
So,
but I think I don't know, for me, these pictures were really important in, like they said so much more than words. So during the data analysis, we had a lot of data, a lot of
I think they say
transcriptions.
pictures speak, is it
Yeah.
1,000 words or so?
And we sort of split it up into groups, and the drawings are a really important part of summarising the ideas.
Yeah.
And we've used them to communicate the research. And you present anything?
This booklet would explain some of that.
Yes, I can share a link to, so we have actually Eve and Hannah, a PhD researcher on the project, have produced an amazing resource, which I will share a link to in the chat now, and that gives you a brilliant overview of the creative approaches that have been used on the project. That's a particularly useful one. Will I go and find a picture of the jellyfish? Would anybody like to think about that? I'll put that link in the chat. There we go.
So the picture of the jellyfish was what we used during our fish workshops, and we determined that through this we could kind of create a new product, which is the Plymouth fish finger. But we were sort of, the jellyfish represents all the barriers to people eating more fish. So things like the policy, things like environment, aspirations, etc.
Right, so I've just shared the link to the resource. So the cost represents the overarching barrier and the other things, and we use this. Do you remember how we use this in the? So when we were communicating to the academic team and other researchers of different disciplines across the Food SQL project, this was really effective in sharing what our main sort of themes and areas were that we wanted to address. And also the making, like the activities of making in the sessions. Is there a particular one of those methods that you think is particularly useful?
I think maybe what we did at the Queen Tea event by writing on the tablecloths or drawing pictures on the tablecloths. Sometimes Lisa will bring along some just words from magazines that people might find helpful, and this glue and stick them on. But I think that activity of people engaging with something, for example, writing or drawing on the tablecloth, one, it's a bit of a naughty thing to do, so it makes people smile, but also then people are not giving each other so much eye contact, which with a new group is quite a helpful thing. And people have found that they were able to express themselves, I think, with the scribbling on the tablecloths.
Yeah, that's right. So it's not eye-to-eye conversation and talking. People could kind of get involved in a conversation at their own pace and in their own way. Really, really effective, actually. And we've used that in lots of different ways since. Yeah. I'm just wondering. So here you have a picture also of the, I'm just looking forward to another slide. No, you cannot see it on the Spotlight platform, never mind. Here it goes. Okay, so there's a picture of, we photographed one of our research workshops, and you can see here we have a whole load of, we have a talking thing, the knitted orange pumpkin is, we pass that round so that everybody gets an opportunity to talk in the research workshop. Some participants might be more forthcoming than others. So when you've got the pumpkin, it's your turn to talk and be heard. We have The charts and activities on the wall are really carefully thought through and rehearsed, and we're inviting participants to come and tell their story, put their post-its and stickers and vote on there as well. And do you want to say anything else about those research workshops and the preparation that goes into them?
Yeah, so at this particular workshop, as you can see, there are lots of bits of paper on the desk, and there's some flowers, and there's some pens and post-its and stickers. People are invited to get up from their seats and to go to the posters on the wall to make their to vote as to what they think is important to them. And the bigger picture with the vegetables on, we did a similar thing with the fish. It was a talking point, really. People were invited to go and find the thing that they had some connection with, whether it was, oh, I really like this, my family eats this thing, I buy it every week, or it might have been, this thing has travelled halfway around the world and it's covered in plastic. People just had something to say about it. And again, those responses were recorded, and we were able to see that from that maybe several people really liked a particular product because it was part of their everyday staples, or they didn't like that it has travelled a long way. With the fish as well, there were similar kind of concerns and things that were favourable about the fish. So at the workshops, we encouraged people to participate by drawing and scribbling at their seats, to get up and to go and vote for stuff, to go and choose some food. We put on a lunch, refreshments. The idea was to create an event and something. It's really important to us that people gain something from the workshops. So it might be that they have opportunity to tell a story, something about the traditions in their family, or a dislike maybe in their family. So that's one of the things we feel that we give to people, is some space to tell a story, and we give them a lunch and some refreshments. And then when they've voted and with their stickers, maybe they feel that their voice has been heard and they're contributing something to their community by engaging with the research.
Yeah, definitely. And I can't sort of overstate how much preparation and rehearsal goes into those research workshops. So we will have tested absolutely everything. You know, how does it work? What sort of response do you get if you ask somebody to tell you a story on a post-it or vote? And what is the, you know, what is the data coming out of that? What is it going to look like, and what can we, and that has been, you know, we walked through all those steps very, very carefully, maybe a few times before that. But I think in the beginning, that took a long time, and it gets easier and easier and quicker as you go. But in the beginning, we certainly spent a long time on those pieces. And yeah, very important to make people feel welcome. I think those research workshops, some of them, they're all very different groups, but some of them felt really fun and sociable actually. People come along for 3 hours, and you know, they probably know somebody who's there, they know the community researchers, and they generally have a, you know, good time, and as well as telling their story. So yeah, hopefully it's a very positive experience for those who attend. Yeah. Yes, somebody thanks you for the reminder about the writing on the tablecloth. Better than better than flip charts and getting up and
definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that was the whole idea of the green tea, is we made it comfortable. Even though it was a naughty thing to do to write on the tablecloth, it was another way of expressing your communication skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even I was writing on the tablecloth, so.
So we definitely learned a lot from that event, and as Laura said, that was an Explore Award from the University of Plymouth, which, so it was quite, it wasn't a proper research event, it was sort of space to experiment and try.
I know I mentioned before that we planned the sessions, but it didn't go to plan. We set roles for each other to do this, do that, and we ended up doing our own thing, but it worked. So we were comfortable with what we were doing.
And what was fabulous about that was it was very, as a team, very organic. It was our first real event, And while, as Laura says, everybody would be on the door and you take the consent and you make the tea, everybody pulled together in the end, because when people came through the door, somebody was looking out for them to welcome them, to find them a seat. Someone else was looking, oh, here's somebody, they need a cup of tea. And it was very organic. Everybody did end up doing all the jobs, but everything was covered.
So just to sort of, we've got another 5 minutes. So I just wonder, is it worth saying some of the kind of other things that you've done? So I know that you've worked with Hannah on the visual approaches booklet, and you recently went to a conference. Do you want to say something about that conference that you attended?
I think really just to pick up on the point that I made earlier, it's in having taken up the opportunity to be a community researcher, which has opened up other opportunities for me, which have been absolutely fabulous. I've been to events here at the university. I got invited to an Engage conference in Bristol, and there were a lot of academics there, and I wouldn't be in the company of academics and hear the language that they speak, the words, some things I don't even understand what they mean, to be fair. I've been given that opportunity by being a community researcher. We've visited the Reading, which is heading up the whole Food Sequel project. We visited Tower Hamlets, we visited Brighton and Hove, to see what our peers are doing across there. Had some fabulous experiences.
And then all specialising in different areas of the project. So Laura, you're working specifically on the fish aspect, the developing the fish finger, and Joanna, you are a food wellbeing champion on the Fresh Street. So even though we've all started out doing the same thing, community researchers have branched off to focus and specialise in different areas of the project.
I think that was a really needed, a good idea, because the project is so developed at this stage. Like, there is so much to do. So dividing our small team into a smaller chance of the small team, it works really well, because we've got actually a chance to focus on things that just that one thing, not everything, not to try to do everything together. Like at one time, we've been given some space and time to work on multiple parts of it.
But we have had times where we've actually come together as a team to sort of help out with other aspects of it. For example, we did a fish finger tasting at the Salvation Army in Whitley, and instead of it just being me and one of my colleagues, the whole team came together and helped make the workshops that day possible. So we do sort of like interact with each other on the different different aspects of it, but as Joanna said, it was easier to sort of like branch one way rather than go down the whole route.
Well, I think maybe having those areas of specialism, it sort of aligns with your interests and developing skills, and then, you know, that so you kind of continue on your journey in together as a team, but also in your individual way as well, which I think is probably important too. Yeah.
When we started and we all worked together, it was great. It's building a foundation for us as a team, and then on to what you were saying about the specialisms.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's nearly 4:25. Thank you for your questions, and it was really interesting to hear from you about what community research meant to you as well. Yes, do have a look at the links in the chat. There's some resources that the community research team have put together, and that'll give you an idea of what we've been doing as well. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.